Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining the Give and Go podcast with Doug and me. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back. Very exciting holiday week in basketball across the state. Some teams out of the state. If you were in the WOBM, odds are you saw me and Doug there all day, every day. So, Doug, Happy New Year first.
Happy New
How
Year. Happy New Year, everybody. And yeah, it's been a good start to the season. Pretty crazy if you go by the records of some of these teams, that we thought would be at the top of the standings or at the bottom of the standings. And some teams we thought would be at the bottom or at the top, but it's early and some teams chose to play out of state for their Christmas tournaments and played better competition. So um, I guess we'll get into that whole debacle.
I got the first PowerPoints, the state PowerPoints, the top 20 teams obviously making the Shore Conference tournament. A couple issues, me and Doug kind of talked about a couple issues, the preseason podcast. A few coaches have brought up some concerns that we'll get into a few of them today. But right now, we're just going to run through the top 20 real quick. I'm not going to give the points. I'm just going to go where they're seated right now. RBR currently number one after winning the WOBM for the second straight year. Me and Doug will get into that, the WOBM a little later. Howell number two, winning the Blue Devil tournament for the second straight year. Both teams undefeated, 1-2. And here where it gets a
Oh,
little strange.
hold on, something happened.
I still see you. You're there. Brust, go Vols. I
There
don't
we
see
go.
you.
Okay, I got it. Nobody wants to
uh,
see me anyway. So.
yeah. So number three is where things get a little strange with Homedale currently sitting third, St. Rose 4, Point Borough 5, Manasquan 6, Trinity Hall 7, 8 Jackson Memorial, 9 Barnegat, 10 Shore Regional, 11 Wall, 12 SJV, 13 Mid South, 14 Kingsburg, who is one of the remaining 5 undefeated teams in the Shore, Frio
Mhm.
Borough 15, Brick Township 16, 17 Long Branch, 18 Marlboro, 19 Neptune, and 20 Manalapan.
Okay, don't
And
say another word.
okay,
Okay, what's one big glaring omission so far?
the number one team in the short, the number two team in the state.
And the top 10 team in the country. How are they not? Yeah, listen, we said in the beginning this was going to be strange, but by RBC choosing to play in Delaware over Christmas, um, so far the state has not updated any out of state PowerPoints, and I'm not sure how they're going to do it, how they judge that, how they determine that. But because of that, RBC is not even in the top 20. Rumson Fairhaven will be left out at number 21. Um, and no disrespect to Keensburg, but Keensburg would be in his 14th. So, this is a little strange and not sure why they had to go change a thing that worked for how many years, but this is some of the problems they're going to run into
Yeah, that's one of the concerns. RBC doesn't play their first New Jersey team until tomorrow against
tomorrow.
St. Rose, who we have ranked number three. Um, so we know it's going to change, but the big question I'm being, coaches want to know is when does the state make their adjustment? Because if they don't make their adjustments to the out of state competition until like the day before the cutoff for sectionals, that's after the short conference tournament
Right.
or during it. I don't know when the cutoff is, but either way, the short conference tournament would be started if they decide to do the state adjustment, data state adjustments then. So, RBC plays such a tough schedule in state. They're gonna move up, but
Right.
if the season ended last night, they're not in the tournament. Which
Not in the tournament. It's
and I
uh
mean,
it's crazy. And I don't know how the state's gonna how are they gonna assign PowerPoints to teams from out of the state that they don't know their schedule, say teams from Florida. I don't know their schedule from there. So how do you assign PowerPoints to that team? It's going to be arbitrary. I have no idea.
I know a year or two the state eliminated like you got no PowerPoints for out of
Right.
state because I remember it, kind of hurt Freel Township in
Yep.
soccer, and they switched to where they didn't play any out of state teams the following year. But I know they did bring it back because there was a lot of complaining from the basketball side because a lot of
Well,
these
we had
schools
Dawn on. Dawn plays most was playing a
down in
schedule of
Florida,
most of the teams, right?
yeah.
And so they weren't going to get points. Just whatever.
So we'll hopefully we get some answers by next week on that. But yeah, like Rumson's sitting at 21 right now, and the biggest, RBC. I think all the other top 10 teams are in there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and our bubble teams. No, one of our bubble teams isn't, but that's because they also haven't started winning yet.
Right.
So, so yeah, we just wanted to start with that. I had a couple coaches venting their concerns, and you
Valid
know,
concerns. That definitely valid concerns.
yes, and they're not. Like I said, they're not making a big deal. Well, they're not making a big deal yet, but some things that they might have to look out for changing for next season. So, but yeah, that's the top 20 right now. If the season ended last night and we started the short conference tournament,
Yeah, that's the way things go. Make change to make more change next year
yeah,
and go back to the way it was the next year because it worked better than the way they changed it to. Is, I don't know, like who decides these
yeah,
who decides this? Who sits in a room and says, "Oh, this is a good idea," and then not thinking that a team that's in the top 20 in the country that's in the short conference plays a lot of teams from out of state. How do they assign the PowerPoints? I'm sure nobody. There's no formula. I don't know.
and when the schedules are made, let's use Rumson. They always play a very strong out of division schedule. And so that's usually finalized by the end of last basketball season. And then the PowerPoints got changed at the beginning of the summer. So that
Right.
structure changed. And that now going into, I don't know when this was decided, the short conference tournament. So, yeah, there's definitely some questions that we got to get answered, in the next coming weeks because February will be here before you know it.
Yeah, the season's short as it is. So
Yeah. Next, we're gonna talk about the holiday week. Doug and me were at the WOBM. We'll touch on some other tournaments, the results. But Doug, anything that stood out to you this past week over in Tom's River in the WOBM?
um I mean a couple of positives and one negative, but I guess I'll do the negative first. Um, you know, Girls basketball in the short conference overall as a whole seems to be down a bit. Across the board, I know a lot of teams graduated a lot of players last year that contributed for their 4 years in high school. Um, but some of the games were kind of sloppy and slow
Yeah.
paced. I know it's early in the season that probably contributed a little bit to it. But we saw some games where there were more turnovers than points in a quarter. Um, on the positive side, I think we saw how good Red Bank Regional can be.
Yeah.
Um, how Rumson we kind of counted out early when they struggled in the first round. Um, Came back and beat Point Borough in the second round. They were down 12-3, and then gave RBR a game in the
Yeah.
final. So, that was a positive for them. I think we saw how good Point Borough can be.
Yeah.
They're a team that's been playing together for a long time. And then we saw a bunch of freshmen that, will contribute this year and over the next 4 years are going to have big careers in the shore conference.
Yeah, I agree. The future is bright in the shore
Yeah.
conference, and it's up. It goes up and down every year. I see it in soccer too, but I think you hit it right. There was a lot of sloppiness. One game, I think Point Borough had 27 turnovers against Rumson. That was the big factor in the second half. Some attributed to Rumson's defense and some,
Mhm.
some bad decision making on the
And
court.
in all fairness to Point Borough, they're not used to, maybe even though they're a bunch of seniors, they're not used to playing in big
Yeah.
games against, the blue bloods of the short conference like Rumson. So, you know, they listen, they were up 12-3. They can hang with the top teams, but they have to mentally get over the, hey, maybe we're not good enough to play with Rumson, but they're just as, every bit of as good as Rumson to play with them and other big teams, but it's probably a mental thing that they're going to have to get over.
Yeah, I think they could take some things from that game. If they just they probably win that game if it wasn't for the turnovers in the second half. So, and Brick, one team I want to bring up, they made some good adjustments because they kind of got blown out opening day against Red Bank Regional. They kept it to a game. RBR ended up winning it by 13, but it was a pretty close game. Riley played really good, I thought, all
Yeah.
tournament, and not just on the offensive end. She shut down Caitlin White in the opening round, and she did a pretty good job on Sinai in the first half. But Sinai showed how good she
Oh yeah.
was. Second half, it was her, not even with just the points, the assist, and then she was hard to stop again in the final. So big year. I think at the end of the year we'll be talking about her on one of the all short teams the way she started the season.
Yeah, and she was on our watch list early. But yeah, she's really stepped up so far this season. Um, led her team so far 6-0. But we talked about Brick and in that semifinal game, um, Riley really stepped up. The freshmen kind of struggled that game, but Riley stepped up, and that's going to happen this year. The freshmen, they'll have their games, and then they're going to have games where they struggle. But it's great to have a senior leader on the team that can pick up, you know, for the highly touted freshmen. Um, the one thing I'll say, as a former coach and observer and watcher, and I'm big on body language, is um, to all the freshmen, not just the freshmen on Brick, to all the freshmen. If things aren't going your way, play harder on defense. Things aren't working on the offensive end, play harder on defense. But you can't show in your body language that things aren't going well, and you know um, you're not feeling it, and then you're going to get angry. And um, if a teammate steps up and scores 7, 8 points in a row, don't think you have to put it right back on your shoulders to take 5 bad shots in a row to try to equal your teammate. Just let things come to you. These kids are going to be really good. All these freshmen. I wrote down a bunch of names. You got, Ari and Kendall from Brick, who had a great tournament. Um, Brooke Gathman, who
Hamza
kind of
Reese.
surprised us for Tom's River East, had a really strong tournament. Um, we saw Jesse Sarana and Savannah Jackson from Manchester played
Yep.
really well.
Yep.
Um, I saw Colts Neck opening night, Emily Donahue and Juliana Jacina. Donahue had 7 3-pointers in that
Yeah.
opening game.
And
And then
Justina's been
Mackenzie
playing good.
Kalatsky, yeah, Mackenzie Kalatsky from Marlboro,
Yeah.
who as a freshman is leading her team in scoring, and Claire Gillespie and Casey Zamet from Homedale are stepping up to help Mackenzie Teven. So, I mean, that's a whole list of freshmen there. I might have missed one or two, but
Yeah.
just advice to the freshmen. You're young, you come in with some accolades and people pushing you and touting you. If things aren't going your way, just settle in and play basketball. Do something to help your teammates out. Take a charge, play defense. Um, but I'm real big on body language and you got to stay positive.
Yeah, and we talked about body language a couple of years ago when Donovan Catholic had a really good team and there was some bad body language on the court, and we saw how that
Mm-hmm.
affected them. So, uh, like you said, a lot of young talent. They're growing, mature a little, and I see all these freshmen, and I know we probably missed a couple that we didn't see yet or haven't seen yet, but that's why we said, the short conference is in really good hands the next few years. One other thing, I just before we close out the WOBM, RBR, Brick made their adjustments. Caroline did not have the game she had opening day.
Right.
Zoe was a little off. She didn't have a great game against them offensively too in the first time. Brick made the adjustments to have Riley Wheeler and Riley Joyce beat them, and Riley Wheeler and Riley Joyce beat them,
Eat them.
hit their
Right.
shots, and that
Yep.
carried over the championship game. I thought Riley Wheeler was fantastic on the floor, and Riley Joyce was all over Sylvia Teen on Rumson. So if they're hitting those shots, because you would consider the big three, then Caroline, Sinai, and Zoe. If the other two are hitting their shots like they did in the WOBM, it's going to be hard for teams to double down on Caroline underneath. It's going to be hard, for Sinai to get doubled, and Sinai could either take it all the way to the hole. She could post up with her height and her size. So RBR is going to be a fun team, and next week they got RBC, which is going to be a fun game.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, opening night they lost. I don't know. I think I wrote it down somewhere. They lost by 26. They lost by 13, 10 days later. Give Kevin he picked his poison. He's gonna double down on Caroline, who had a big game opening night against them and the kids did a great job on her. I guess they chose to let Wheeler and Joyce shoot,
Yeah.
and that night they made their shots, and Wheeler and Joyce are always going to give you 100% on the defensive end. But
Yeah.
like you said, if they can score 8 to 10 points on the offensive end, combine that with Caroline, who's not going to be stopped like that a lot, and Sinai, who's been on fire, and Zoe, who can knock down threes with the best of them. I mean, that's going to be like you said, a fun team to watch.
Yeah. Real quick, let's the Blue Devil Holiday Tournament over at Shore Regional. Howell there's won it. I think this third year in a row. Maybe Howell's
Yeah, I think
won it.
so. Yeah.
They played a tough team from Staten Island, St. Joseph Hill. I watched them a little bit when they played Shore Regional. They would crack the top 10 in the Shore.
Mhm.
Watching them, they were a good team, and Shore brought in. They had Neptune, who was in our top 10 to start the season. Jackson Memorial, who's on the bubble. Howell, the team from Staten Island, Shore, who's now in our top 10.
Yep.
They had some good teams in that tournament. And Howell, Kylie Beam, sophomore. We talked a lot about her last year, and
Right.
it seems like she just elevated her game. MVP had a big final. I think she finished with 19, I think, in the championship game.
Yeah. Where is it? I wrote that down. Yes. 19 and 12 against St. Joseph Hill.
And I noticed the bond, her and Kira had a good bond last year,
Hmm.
and Kira being the upperclassman, you could see, looks like just from what I see, Kylie's taking everything in, learning from her. It's a really good situation. And Howell's a good team, and they're always tough on defense. Probably wish they were a little bit deeper, but they could not.
Yeah.
When they're hot outside, they're really, really tough. And if Kira and Kylie are going to be averaging 15 a game, that's going to be tough for our opponents. And I want the Jackson game. They were losing going into halftime. Outscored Jackson 20-5. Jackson has a height to keep up with them, and
Yeah.
Kira and Kylie, had strong third or fourth quarters, and Ashley Smith did a phenomenal job like she usually does on the defensive end.
Yep. I think that was my upset special. I picked Jackson over Howell, and it looked good for a half. Um, but like you said, the Twin Towers are going to take over most of those games and dominate inside. And you know, Jackson's got some height. Finer's big, Old is big, and um, they just came back and won and give Shore credit also. Like you said, they beat Neptune in the first round. They
Yep,
took St. Joseph Hill to
the
overtime in
overtime.
the second round. Um, so things are looking up for them also, and their three-headed monster is
Yeah.
scoring like crazy and early in the season. Um, so yeah, that was a good tournament. A lot of good teams to watch, and you can only build on what you started so far early in the season, and all those teams are going to be there, towards the end.
Yeah. Another tournament in New Jersey was the Holiday Hoop Fest up in Patterson that had SJV and St. Rose. Both teams went 2-1. St. Rose might have had the biggest victory of the weekend, beating Rutgers Prep, handing them
Yeah.
their first loss. Rutgers Prep, I think they're third in the state or fourth, third or fourth, right on NJ.com. So big win. Cassie Brucey, the way she played in the championship game last year against Rutgers Prep carried over. Had a career high 21 points against Rutgers
Yeah.
Prep. Who I think is going to have a great season. So St. Rose plays RBC tomorrow night. I'm sure it's going to be a jam-packed gym, number 3 versus number 1. So be interesting to see how RBC responds off their first loss of the season down in Delaware, which the tournament they won last year, and how St. Rose responds off their loss against a very good Gill St. Bernard team.
Yep. And it was an interesting tournament up in Patterson. I think if I'm not mistaken, I don't have it, but St. John Vianney lost to Rutgers Prep,
No, they
right?
lost to Gill. They lost.
They lost to Gill, right? They lost to
Yes.
Gill. Gill, who played really well the whole tournament.
Yeah.
Rutgers Prep, I don't think they thought St. Rose was going to go in there and beat them. But you said Cassie had a big game. Jada always there. And SJV, they have 2 losses so far.
Yes, they beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lost to Paul the Sixth and Gill St.
Right.
Bernard 2, and I think both teams are in the top 5 or
Yeah.
top 10. They're in top 10.
Yeah. So come short conference time, I'm sure they're going to right the ship, and um, it's going tomorrow night's game is going to be interesting though. It's going to be the first battle of the short conference, and
Mm-hmm.
keep talking about PowerPoints, major PowerPoints for the winner.
Yeah,
So, and in that small RBC gym,
I think it's at St.
also,
Rose.
oh, is it at St.
I
Rose?
think it's at
I
St.
thought it
Rose.
was at RBC. I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
I'll check right now.
Um,
But yeah,
Either way, but
it's both gyms are
both
small.
gyms are both gyms have the home court advantage. But that's gonna be a great game.
5:30 start. Yeah, it's at St. Rose.
Okay, that's good.
So, well, Point Borough, Manchester tomorrow too.
That should be a
Uh,
good one. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, both teams will bounce back after their losses. I mean, they both lost to very good team. I mean, I'm just assuming that Arrowhead team out in Wisconsin is pretty good
Pretty,
if they're
yeah,
if they're
pretty good.
traveling to Delaware for a tournament like
Right.
that. The last tournament, the score at the Shore down at Southern, Trinity Hall made it to the final, lost in overtime. Grace Feeney had a great tournament. She 19 in the first round, which was right before Christmas break, and then 20 and 20, 20 against Mainland and 20 against Pingree. So one of the concerns was who's going to score with Nina graduating. And it looks like we found the answer because Feeney scored double digits every game this season.
Yeah, she's having a great season so far, and there's going to have to be 1 or 2 more players step up and contribute. Whitney Hobson's had some good games.
And then wait for
It's
Drennan
going
to
to
get
be
back from injury too.
it's going to be more consistency. They need more consistency on the offensive end to play with the top 4 or 5
Wow.
teams in the Shore. But Kevin, I mean, McCarthy will get them there.
Yeah.
He's
Uh,
a great coach, and
yeah.
it's early in the season, so a lot of things are happening. Good things. You look at some teams and say, well, maybe they're not where they should be, but by the end of the season, they'll be there.
Yeah.
They're always going to compete.
And I think they got rainy this week. So that Trinity has a very strong schedule, so they're going to be well prepared come short conference time. But I think that's a team. Did I say them in the top 20? Oh yeah,
Who's
they're
that?
7. They're at 7.
Oh,
I'll
sure,
say
yeah.
yeah, they're
But
7.
you did just mention Randy, who's had it rough the first
Yeah,
couple of weeks of the season,
they played some
playing
pretty
some
good.
big teams.
Yep, but
Um,
I saw them against Manasquan. That was Manasquan had their way. Poser really didn't get going until second half, but Lisa always has a game plan for everyone. Uh, Matt, Tough D and Heine did a good job on Prager in the first half too. So uh, Rainey also they got a couple tough games coming up. I think
Yeah.
they've got Trinity Hall. I think somebody else they got Shore Regional coming up
Yep.
for a division game. So that'd
I
be
think that's
a
next Monday, I think,
yes,
that
and then
game.
I think Michelle Steele. I think that's her first game back
Okay.
too. I
Yeah.
think.
So that should help.
Yeah,
Definitely.
so that's going to be a good test for both those teams to see, where they are. Any other Christmas? The Homedale
Barnegat
event?
went down. Barnegat won the Battle of Boardwalk or
Yeah,
Boardwalk Classic down in Ocean City.
yeah.
Um,
Emma
you know,
Thornton's still continuing her double
double
streak.
double machine. Yeah. But you
Congratulations.
said before about undefeated teams. There's five left in the short conference. RVR 6-0, Colts Neck 4-0, Howell 5-0, Keensburg 4-0, and Barnegat 4-0. So five left.
Yeah. And next week, Barnegat and Brick, I think that's going to be, a fun game, good test for the youngsters
Yep.
at Brick and, Barnegat experience with Fitzpatrick and Thornton. So that should be a fun game. And then you had the Homedale event, really wasn't a tournament. Manasquan went 2-0. Probably competition probably wasn't where Manasquan usually plays during a holiday tournament. They shut Mount St. Mary out in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean,
Crazy.
that could not have been exciting to be at,
No,
especially
no,
if you're a Mount St.
definitely not.
Mary parent or fan.
No, no, that's tough. That's tough to
Uh,
watch.
Rainey went 1-1, and then Homedale went. Did they go? Homedale went 2-0. They beat They beat Marlboro on the first day,
Right.
and
They're 3-1. I'm not sure who their loss is.
hang on, hold on. Sure.
I have that pulled up. Let me see.
3-1. What did they lose to? Oh, they lost their first game to Union City 46-43.
Oh, right. Okay. Yep. All right.
And then they beat so
They
they
beat
had
Mount St.
oh
Mary and
that was in the short game.
right.
So
And then
they
home.
beat
So they did go 2-0 in
they
their
beat Mount St.
showcase.
Mary 33-30, and then Manasquan. So it's tough to really gauge where Homedale is right now. I mean, it's safe to say they're not three in the like they are in the PowerPoints in
Yeah.
the state.
Right. Right.
Um, so Marlboro went 0-2 in that event, and Colts Neck went 2-0 in
Mhm.
that event. So those were the short teams in that event. Uh, all right, yeah, I think that's all. I'm just looking at the teams to see if there's anything else. New Egypt had a tournament. It was just them and Pinelands.
Yeah. I guess
New Egypt,
Willingboro lost their first round game and decided they didn't want to show up for the
yeah,
consolation game.
yeah. I feel bad for Pinelands. If they made that trip and the team didn't show up, that Pinelands to New Egypt is not around the corner.
No. No.
And yeah, Pinelands lost in the first round to New Egypt, and New Egypt lost in the finals. So, but Tierney, Coach Tierney over Pinelands taking over the team late. Notification with him taking over the team, starting off three and
Yep.
two. So he has one of his freshmen made all tournament team.
Yep.
So he's playing some youngsters down there. So another young team to be on the lookout for.
Definitely. And Christmas tournaments, I think Keensburg won the South
Yes.
Amboy. So they went, they won that. So congratulations to them. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, but it's been a pretty exciting holiday season. Now we're getting ready for short
Divi-
conference matchups.
and division play.
So the fun will begin.
Yeah. Uh, what about Christmas? Let's do, we're going to do our players of the week. There will be a fan poll posted tomorrow. Um, so me and Doug will be picking one player per division, then probably a couple wild cards. This week we're going to have 12 players, one per division. 4 wild cards, just because holiday tournaments and players really stepped up that deserve recognition. So we'll start with A Central. Pulling it up right now. Where's your
And
team?
this players of the week, this first um, players of the week encompasses most of the beginning of the season. So
Yeah.
because we've had almost 2 weeks of season so far, but holiday tournaments. So instead of doing it week, we've done the first part of the season
Yeah.
this first week.
Yeah. So um Howell actually 2 players we picked this week. I didn't realize that. Kira McCow, player of the week, and Kylie Beam. Um, we selected her as one of our wild cards. I'll let you could talk about their stats if you have it up, what they
Yeah,
did.
I do. McCown is averaging 15 points, 12 rebounds, 2.5 blocks, and 2.5 assists per game to start the season. Um, she also, her games, 17 points, 22 rebounds against Monroe, and 13 and 15 against Jackson Memorial.
Yeah.
So big start to the season for her. And then Kylie, um, averaging 15 points, 10 rebounds, 2.8 assists, and 2.1 steals a game. 21 points, 18 rebounds versus Raritan, and 19 and 12 against St. Joseph Hill.
Yeah, in St. Joseph's Hill, they had one player that had some height, so it wasn't they weren't were not a
Mm-hmm.
short team. So impressive, and Kylie Beam, picking up where she left off in the postseason last year. So good start for her. A Coastal, another strong division there.
Yeah,
Pick Sinai from RBR coming off the MVP, at the
yep, MVP.
WOBM. We have a couple we got Stella Lockhart, a big tournament. She had a big start to the season, really,
Yeah,
for her.
yeah,
And Addie Nemchek, who, you know, we could talk about Addie every single podcast, how good she is. And,
yeah.
good tournament down there at Viking Invitational. So,
And Mackenzie Teven,
oh, they're in that division too?
aren't they? Yeah,
Yes, they are. You're
yeah,
right.
yeah,
So, sorry, I thought they were in.
yeah.
So that just tells you how strong that division is to start. And Teven helping the Homedale get off to 3-1. And I'll let you go through their stats.
Yeah. Teven, averaging 18 points, 12 rebounds. Her big games have been 16 points, 13 rebounds against Union City, and 25 and 14 against Marlboro. Lockhart, who we talked about earlier in our first podcast, had a big summer playing kind of on a national circuit, playing against big competition. Um, 14 points, 6.5 rebounds so far, 19 points, 8 rebounds versus Paul the Sixth, and 25 and 9 against Bayonne. So that's 2 big games for her. And then our player of the week, Sinai Bly Canton. She's averaging 18.2 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 3.5 steals a game. Had a big 32 point, 5 rebound effort against Freehold Township, and then 17 and 10 against RFH in the OBM final, where she was named MVP.
Yeah. So moving to Ace South, um, one player of the week, Grace Crowley, helped get Toms River East into the finals of the Kathy Snyder bracket. Has had a great season start. That only senior leader of the team,
On a
only
young
player.
team.
Yeah, only player to actually see significant minutes. Coach Cohen, he brought up to when it got to talk to him WABM how she has 100 points total in her career, and now she has 100 points in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
And he says that's a very pleasant surprise to go with all the youngsters um, at Tom's of East that we got to see this week.
Like we talked about Riley at Brick, with a bunch of young players, and Grace is doing the same thing at Towns River East, leading a whole bunch of young players and doing a great job.
Yeah. Do you have her? Do you have her
I
average?
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
10.2 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 4.4 steals. She had 13 and 10 against Brick and 18-9 against Toms River North. So yeah, a couple of big games.
All right. What do we got next?
A North.
A North. So player of the week, we have Kimmy Sason from Shore Regional, and it's one of the wild cards, or last wild card, 12th, Grace Feeney.
Mhm.
So Kimmy, I think double digits every game this season as well. I think if I remember correctly, and a lot of energy, fast, does it on both sides of the floor, and one of the reasons why they were able to get to overtime because they were trailing for a little bit against St. Joseph Hill.
Yep. So far in the season, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 steals. 24-point effort against Toms River East and 15-8 against St. Joseph Hill.
Okay. Now Grace Feeney, we said 2020 and 19 in the tournament. Scored double digits every game. She's averaging 16 points a game.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, all the other stats are not loaded for the last couple of
Got
games.
about 5 rebounds a game, but yeah, I don't think a lot of the other stuff
Yeah, the
was
last the
loaded.
last game, 2 games are not loaded. But before that she was averaging about 6 rebounds a game before the games that aren't loaded. But we talked about her early how much she's stepping up in a bigger role this season on the offensive end, and Coach McCarthy um is probably very pleased with that.
Oh yeah,
All right, B Central from Point Beach, Erin Freinheimer. We knew she was going to lead the team. Did I butcher that? Close. That was close. Reed.
you got the first part. Yeah,
um,
Aaron Fraunheim.
Brownham.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we knew going into the season she was going to continue leading the team in scoring.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I'll let you go through her.
Yeah. I mean, so far, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals, 21 points, 4 rebounds against Lacey, and 21-11 against Brick Memorial.
Yeah, Beach needs to get some other players going with her consistently.
Yeah, and again, young team, young coach, new
New
coach.
coach.
So, um, from everything I've heard, she's doing a great job there. The kids are really buying in and working hard. So, you know,
Yeah, I've heard a lot of positives. A lot of they're happy with that. So um,
mhm.
hopefully, build a good culture over there and keep kids from transferring out of Point Pleasant.
Yeah, hopefully.
Beat Coastal. Princess Graves, a double machine for Kingsburg.
Yeah, yeah. It's averaging 16 points, 12 rebounds a game to go along with 2.5 steals. She had a couple of big games, 18-12 against South River and 21-13 against South Amboy. So that's to add that to what Keensburg has already. That's that could bode well for them in the division. So
Yeah, Lindsay Rivera. We've been talking
mhm,
about her since her freshman year.
yeah.
They have a couple weapons over there in that division. So they might be able to run that division. Who else is in that? Raritan should be a good matchup for them. Middletown
Hmm.
North too.
Yeah.
So Middletown North Kingsburg could be a fun game.
It could, yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
B North scoring machine. You married Diaz Marino.
Yeah, it's
He's
we've been talking about her for a couple of years also.
Yeah, not a single game under 20 points. Not a single game under
No.
25 points.
And so far leading the shore in scoring 27.5 points, 6 rebounds, 3.2 um, assists and 4 steals, 30-point game against Lacey and a 29 and 15 rebound game against Shore. So
That's
doing it against good competition.
yes, that's and ironically, Long Branch had a soccer player that led the Shore in scoring. Let's see if this keeps up. They soccer and basketball they might
All right.
have at the end of the year.
Green Wave putting
Yeah.
some stats on the board.
Last B South. Sure, we're going to be talking about her a few times through the course of the season. Emma Thornton, double machine, has helped Barnegat get out to 4-0 start.
Yeah, 18 and 15 so far. 20 had a 2020 game against Brick Memorial and a 22 and 15 game against St. Dominic's in the Boardwalk Classic. So yeah, I mean, I know we're gonna talk about her a lot. She's going to East Stroudsburg next year, and Coach Dabina, I'm sure, is very happy to have her coming up to East Stroudsburg.
Yeah. One thing I work, barring it in one of the weaker divisions, they have Brick scheduled. Is Brick in that division?
Yeah,
Oh.
they Brick twice, right? Because they're in
Yeah.
the
Sorry,
division.
I thought
Yeah,
Memorial was in there. So they got Brick. That's going to be a tough game. Tom's River East would be a good matchup for them. Um, and they picked up They got Colts Neck at the end of the year, so that could be a
that's a
good
good one.
test. Good
Yeah,
test for them before states, because they got Jackson in
good.
the next Saturday at the coaches versus cancer event at
I
Donovan.
think that'll be a pretty good matchup, the
I
Jackson
do.
and Barnegat.
So,
Yeah, it's be a battle inside. A lot of
Auto.
bigs in that game, but um, both teams are very experienced, and I think it should be a good matchup. I think they got a good one there.
Yeah, that's potential of being the game of the day over at Donovan, which is a great event. We'll probably try to do a podcast right before that event. I would
Yeah, we
guess.
usually have Glenn on to talk a little bit about his,
Yeah.
what the tournament represents for him and everything.
Yes, and we got to see Glenn. All right, we're gonna just run through the top 10. We're not gonna go in detail. The link will be posted in the description if you want to read what we wrote about the top 10 teams for coming out of the holiday season, the first top 10 of the 2025. So we got RBC remains at 1, SJV remains at 2, St. Rose 3, no change there, RBR 4, no change there, Manasquan 5, no change there. Howell moved up one spot, being undefeated, winning the Blue Devil Classic. Trinity dropped one spot. They dropped their last game, but they got a rematch with Pingree on Saturday.
Mhm.
Um, Rumson 8. They moved up one. Good performance against RBR, and team in front of them lost, so lost a lot of games.
Yeah, yeah,
Newcomers Point Barrow been on the bubble the last 2 weeks, 3-1, only lost to Rumson, which a very winnable game for them.
Mhm.
And 10 Shore Regional, not ranked last week, but back um in it this week. They were on the bubble last week. On the bubble this week, Colts Neck, Jackson Memorial, and Rainey. Uh, Rainey's tough schedule. If they put some wins together, they'll be right back in the top 10.
yeah,
The link will be posted at the bottom. You guys could read everything that we wrote about these top 10 teams. And yeah, that's it.
yeah, and don't forget to look for the on the Shore Sports Insider website about the voting for
Sample.
Player of the Week.
Yes, I'll have that
So
up tomorrow.
we choose the player and you guys vote for the winner. So that's school spirit will be involved, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Get a lot of schools that you don't think about usually get the
Yeah.
player over the top. I know what happened in soccer a couple of times. The smaller school got everybody out to vote, and
I think Raritan has won 2 years in a row in soccer, a player of the week. So, yeah,
yeah,
so yeah, get out and vote, share it. I'll load it on the Give a Go podcast Instagram page as well, even though it's more soccer players. But we got some soccer players in this poll for
good,
this week.
yeah,
So I will be at St. Rose tomorrow. I don't know if
I'll be there as well.
number 3 versus number 1. See what's going on Saturday. If I'll hit anything. I haven't looked that far ahead. And next week, quite a lot of good games next week. A lot of good head-to-head matchups. But
Yeah,
next Saturday, we'll talk about it later in the week. Me and Doug will be at the coaches versus cancer, and then the hoop group boardwalk event next Sunday is not at Brookdale this year. It is moved to Georgian Court, which
which is
is
great
a
for
plus
us.
in our neck of the woods.
Yeah,
And I'm really looking forward to the Manasquan RBR matchup next
That'd be a great
Sunday.
one.
And then you got RBC with their rematch against Morris Catholic, who had them
Yep.
on the ropes last year. And SJV plays Blair. I think same
Yep.
matchup as
Blair.
last year, and Blair beat
Hmm.
them. I think Blair beat them last year, right? So, anything you want to add?
No, it's just I don't know if those tickets are on sale yet, but you'd be, we- you know, I would think long and hard about getting those tickets early because that gym at Georgia Court is not big, um, and it's going to be packed.
Yeah,
So,
very weird that they
uh,
moved the boys there too
yeah,
on Saturday.
I don't know. There must be something going on in Brookdale,
Could be
and like I
because it was
said,
a late
I mean,
change too. It was a late change, from my
yeah,
understanding.
I'm happy about it.
Yeah,
10 minutes, 15 minutes from my house. Same for you.
yeah,
Um, you know, we frequent that campus. I
yeah.
coached girls basketball there a long time ago, and
I'm there for
we go
soccer.
see our buddy Jim Moore play soccer, coach
Yeah.
soccer there. So um, yeah, it's going to be a great event. Like I said, I would get my tickets early if they're on sale. We'll be there, and looking forward to it. Now the girls are earlier and boys are later. Is that how
No,
it's
the boys
working?
are still Saturday night actually.
Oh, they are Saturday night.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a miss. The website was wrong. Talking to Matt Manley, he said the boys are still Saturday night,
Okay.
and
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 there's
the
a couple of
girl,
good boys games too. So
yeah, and
yeah.
the girls they start I think 12 o'clock for the girls. I think it's the
Okay.
first game. So good. I go straight from work right down there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, everyone, thank you for joining us. Once this gets uploaded, and hope everyone has a happy New Year.
Yeah. I hope good luck to everybody going the rest of the way. And maybe we'll see some of you guys tomorrow night.
Yeah. Good night, everyone.
All right.